I would like to invite our four distinguished panelists and Steve Melito to join me on the main stage. Steve, please join us and with the rest of the panelists. We're still missing a couple of panelists.
There we go. Steve joined us.
Oh, okay.
All right. You want to take off your microphone or turn your microphone on, rather. Very good. And we are waiting for Scott McNulty. Hopefully Scott's able to join us.
Steve's outdoing all of us with his nice Norse titanium background.
I said the same thing. It's not even an image. It's the real deal.
It's impressive.
The conference room. I've only got a few minutes on stage. I'm gonna make the most of it.
All right, very good.
I have a whiteboard.
Good. So let's get started because we're sort of limited on time ourselves. So everybody, welcome to the panel discussion here at How the North Country Keeps the World Moving. My name is Steve Melito. I'll be your panel moderator. And today you're going to hear from some industry experts and hopefully gain some insights that you can take back with you to your own operations. I'll start by asking each of our panelists a question, and then if time permits, I'll go ahead and ask them a second one. So let's get right started. To begin with, we'll go to Steve Eaton, the man with the wonderful background there. Steve, you're the VP of Operations at Norse Titanium in Plattsburgh. So one thing I wanted to ask you is, and to give folks a little bit of background just in case they don't know, Norsk is FAA approved and OEM qualified to make structural titanium parts. Given your perspective, your involvement with the aerospace industry, what are you seeing in terms of how the pandemic has affected commercial aerospace?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And first off, I know I speak for all the panelists and sharing that it's our pleasure to be here and speak with all of you today. As you mentioned, Norsk Titanium is an additive manufacturer of titanium components for commercial aerospace, and commercial aerospace is an industry that's been hit particularly hard by the pandemic, and we continue to feel the effects of that. To put that into perspective for those listening, about a year ago, as we were just starting to grapple with the effects of the pandemic, available seat miles, which is a metric that's used in industry to measure capacity, fell about 80%. So it was about, at this time last year, it was about 20% of where it was pre-pandemic. It rebounded a little bit and kind of peaked around the holidays this past year to around 45% of what it was pre-pandemic. We are, as an industry, very hopeful that the vaccinations start to encourage more air travel, and we certainly believe that that's a path forward from an industry standpoint. It'll be very interesting to watch the summertime travel bookings. There's been a little bit of good news coming out just recently on bookings as folks have been getting vaccinated, and some of the quarantine restrictions have been reduced across states. One last thing I just want to note is, we have a technology that's portable, and I know in some regard we've all found ways to be creative and evolve and adapt to some of the challenges that have come about with the pandemic. Norsk Titanium's looking to diversify its customer base, and specifically leverage some of the excellent skills that exist here in the North Country, and together, I share Congresswoman Stefanik's comments here on the title of this. Together we will all grow together, and we'll all keep the world moving here in the North Country.
Fantastic. Thank you. So let's head over to Scott McNulty. Scott, thanks for being on the panel. You're the VP of Manufacturing at LC Drives in Potsdam, and I was going back and looking at something that I had written for FUSUB a while back, and you had about 15 employees in May of 2019. You've grown to 75 employees. There's talk about you being up to 300 employees in 5 years. So demand for what you're doing, which is a permanent magnet motor and generator, must be soaring. How is LC Drives continuing to grow during the pandemic, and how has COVID affected your hiring?
Yeah, thank you. It's been a big challenge. We're actually up over 100 people now here in Potsdam, and there's been a lot of challenges and some opportunities driven by COVID. So most of our employees that we hire are from the region. There are a couple that come from out of state or out of country potentially. That from the disadvantage side, getting people in, getting them to see the company in the startup phase has been difficult. We have found that with people outside of the area and even within the area, video chatting has been preferable for interviewing as opposed to bringing people on site. It's really hard to read someone's facial expressions when they have a mask over their face in person. So video has been nice for that. But to get people to tour without coming in, we've also worked on how do we do virtual tours of our factory. So we've got some gimbal camera setups. We can actually go seamlessly from a room in our offices over to the factory side, walk people around, ask questions, which has been really, really beneficial when you're trying to get someone to see a startup, right? We have a pretty good online presence, but not fantastic yet. We're still working on developing that as well. So it's really been a big part of us, our IT development, getting able to, get people in here virtually. So by the time we bring people on site with all the COVID precautions, we feel pretty good that they're the right fit for the job.
Excellent, Scott. Thank you for that. Now let's go to Michael Bachman, who's the VP of Sales and Marketing at Unique Electric Solutions, and UES is on Long Island all the way here, virtually up in the North Country. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate being here.
So Michael, UES makes electric drivetrains for trucks and buses, and it's hard not to look at the news and see something about Tesla and electric cars. How is what you're doing similar or different to making an electric car?
Yeah, so we make the drivetrain, so everything that replaces the old gas or diesel engine. We focus on that for trucks and buses. So that means the motors, the electronics, the batteries, the software, and all of that can be installed in new vehicles or new trucks or school buses, for example. But we also retrofit existing vehicles. And the benefit in that is you can take your old bus that's paid for, continue to put it in service and get all the benefits of electrification. So what's the same about a big delivery truck or a big yellow school bus as a Tesla is the advantages of being battery powered instead of diesel. So that means there's no tailpipe emissions. Anyone who's been at a stoplight and seen a school bus pull away in front of you with a big puff of smoke, all of that is gone. So that gives you benefits to the environment, benefit to health, whether it's carbon dioxide or nitrogen oxide or volatile compounds, all bad stuff that comes out of tailpipes. We eliminate that on the vehicle at least. They're quiet. If you've been woken up in the morning by a loud garbage truck or a school bus, or you've tried to have a nice coffee on a sidewalk and had a loud truck come by, or when vehicles are electrified, they're quite quiet, and basically you notice tire noise instead of that. And of course, companies and society has goals to move away from fossil fuels for their sustainability objectives. People want vehicles that are more peppy, and generally performance is much better with electric vehicles. And in fact, while they're more expensive up front, electric vehicles, including trucks and buses, are generally cheaper over the long run. So what's different about a big truck or a bus that's electrified as opposed to a Tesla or a Chevy Bolt? Trucks and buses are normally business assets, right? And they're key to operations. So you can't change your method in a car. You can always hop in an Uber if your Tesla isn't charged. You can take a train or a bus, or you can hop in a spouse or a friend's car and work from home like we're all doing today. But trucks and buses can't deliver goods, can't deliver people, can't transport if they're not functioning. And another thing that's different is the technical problem. A Tesla weighs about 4,000 pounds and carries people that weigh a couple of hundred pounds or less each. A truck, on the other hand, hauls goods that weigh many more times than the vehicle does itself. So there's a technical challenge often associated with range. There's greater energy demands. And finally, charging. We all know we need to plug in a vehicle. Plugging in one Tesla or one Chevy Bolt in your driveway is pretty simple. But if you have driven past a big schoolyard or a big UPS depot and seen 150 trucks, figuring out how to get all of those charged can be challenging. So that's essentially the similarities and differences.
Great stuff, Michael. Thank you. Now we're going to go over to Holly Black. Holly, you're the HR manager at Vaporstone Rail Systems in Plattsburgh, and I believe you make Metro door systems. Is that right?
We do door operating systems, doors, HVAC units. We do a lot of aftermarket as well. Anything that breaks down on the trains out on the line gets sent back here and we fix them.
All right, good stuff. So Holly, what were some of the biggest challenges in HR for you during the pandemic, and how did you deal with them in order to keep the plant fully operational?
Well, I would have to say that like probably most employers out there, and I know Scott actually mentioned it earlier, staffing was our biggest issue, whether it was finding and hiring new talent or just, maintaining the staff we already had. I will say we were very fortunate to have the team that we had here that decided to stick it out. We didn't lose a lot of people, either for being sick or I know it was very beneficial for a lot of people to stay home during the height of the pandemic. So with all that being said, I would say that information was probably our most significant resource. And I'm sure a lot of you on this call took advantage of the webinars the Chamber put out, or even just their daily newsletter. I know Joel mentioned it a little bit earlier. It was very difficult, especially at the beginning of all this. There was just so much information circling around. You didn't know what was what. Something would happen in the morning, and by the afternoon, it would be something different. So I relied heavily on the Chamber. I'm sure Joel will attest to that. I know I probably annoyed him with all of my questions. But being able to have this information on hand so that I can answer my employees' questions, and did what we could to make them feel safe. I think we were able to maintain the staff we had based on the fact we made everyone feel as though coming to work was actually a safe place to be. I know that the FFCRA program was definitely difficult for a lot of employers, especially a lot of smaller employers that maybe couldn't afford it. But for us, I will say it continues to be to this day a very good resource for us. Like I had mentioned earlier, ensuring that our employees felt safe coming to work is what helped us a lot. So Vaporstone, with the assistance of the FFCRA credits, we created a COVID paid program, which, I know a lot of people used it for daycare, and, if they had to go out sick, if they'd been around someone that was tested positive. We actually had also used it so that way if somebody wasn't feeling well, that way they didn't come into work. We told them, stay home, go get tested. We're going to pay you while you're going to do that. When we did the cost savings, it was much cheaper to pay one or two people because they weren't feeling well, rather than sending an entire department home because, they didn't want to miss a paycheck, which I'm sure all of us understand. We go to work because we have bills to pay. So letting them know that their safety was the most important thing to us was, I think, very instrumental in keeping all of them here.
All right, great, Holly. And since you were kind enough to go last, I'd like to ask you another question if I can. Certainly workforce is a challenge, and it's a goal of employers to find that talent. So hard to find. At the same time, we're hearing about an increasing need for diversity in manufacturing. So what is Vaporstone doing in this area?
So this is very near and dear to my heart, actually, is diversity in manufacturing. So what we've started doing is actually creating a Women in Manufacturing program. This was started last year, pre-pandemic. So as everyone knows, manufacturing has always been a highly male-dominated field. And in the North Country, with manufacturing being one of the largest employers, they have tons of jobs, and for some reason, women aren't migrating towards them. And I think a lot of it is because of the stereotypes. Growing up, men always went to shop class or, went to the really cool program CV Tech offered, and women, we migrated more towards home ec classes or art classes. And I don't think it was because we didn't want to do it. It was just the stereotypes set forth. So with the help of a lot of other manufacturing companies in town, Bombardier, Novabus, Spencer ARL, IEC Holden, we had partnered with CV Tech and created this Women in Manufacturing program. We got together with all of these companies that wanted to help and created a curriculum that would give female students the skills and knowledge necessary to eventually give them a job with one of these companies. It's going to be, I say going to be because everything was all set up and then COVID happened. Our first class was supposed to be, I believe, April 9th, and then everything shut down. So we hopefully will get it back up and running. But it will be a hands-on training program. I believe we agreed it was going to be 9 weeks long, 4 days a week, 4 hours each day, and we tailored the times for women who may have childcare concerns. We know that's another issue why women don't go to work, is because sometimes it's, you know, easier and probably more affordable to stay home. So in this program, we would give them the mechanical skills and electrical skills that they would need to do the daily job duties that our companies require. At the end of the 9 weeks, they will do a final project that will demonstrate their mechanical and electrical aptitude, and then finish up by doing an interview. Well, we would help them create resumes and give them interview training, and then each of these companies would interview the women and hopefully give them a job at the end of it.
All right, great, good stuff. Holly, many thanks for that. Holly Black from Vaporstone Rail Systems, Michael Bachman, UES, Scott McNulty, LC Drives, and Steve Eaton from Norse Titanium. Thank you for being part of the panel, and to everyone in our audience today. Our panelists will be at tables, I hope, later on. They certainly have tables here on the first floor of the event. So since you didn't have a chance to ask them anything yourself, stop by and see them and have a chat with them and learn more about what they do. And with that, Everton, I'm going to hand this back over to you. To our panelists, please turn off your cameras and microphones. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, panelists.